Okay, well, from what I understand, everyone, I'm showing up on 4 big screens. I wish I could join you face to face. I would have loved to travel to your beautiful location. I talked to the dean that works at my college, and he's been to your city. It's beautiful. I'm very fortunate that you would consider having me speak at this conference. I look forward to sharing with you today a little bit about the blended librarianship and how it relates to the topic that I'll be presenting on. I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen so that you'll be able to see my presentation. So you won't see my face anymore, but you should still be able to hear my voice. So wait one moment and you should see the slides. I'm going to put them up on the screen, and it should replace my face. And I hope that you are all seeing it now. George, if you could just say yes so that I know you're seeing it, I will then proceed and...
Yes.
Great. Okay. I'm going to make it full screen then. And so today I will be talking to you about the topic of reimaging the role of the librarian as an educator in the digital era. And the basis of this talk is an article that I wrote not quite 2 years ago. And I'm going to use that as the foundation. That article is available online, and it's available in a text version that Google can translate into Portuguese and Spanish. I can't tell you how good the quality will be because I unfortunately cannot speak either language well, so I don't know if it translates it well or not, but at least it's an option if you're interested in reading it. So this started about a decade ago, and a colleague of mine named Stephen Bell, who is actually the current past president of the Association of College and Research Libraries in the United States, we got together and talked about what we thought was important for librarianship to remain relevant. And we decided that part of our discussion we should turn into an article. So that article we wrote back in 2004, and it was published in the journal College and Research Library News. And as you see in this quote here, we felt strongly academic librarianship is really going to flourish if we can figure out how to align our services and our efforts directly into the teaching and learning process at our colleges and universities. And we later wrote a book on this as well called Academic Librarianship by Design. What I'm going to talk about is just a few of the basic principles and where the idea came from and what it is composed of. So the concept of blended librarianship really is an infusion of instructional systems design, technology, and librarianship. And I'm just going to spend just a moment talking about what that means, especially if you're not familiar with instructional systems design. That may not be very meaningful. So I'll talk a little bit about what we mean by infusion. And I want to explain that I don't mean replacing. I don't see librarians needing to become information technologists. They just need to be aware of some of the skills to be able to do some of the things as well as cooperate with IT professionals. And likewise, I don't see them replacing instructional designers and instructional technology or educational technologists, but rather just being more knowledgeable to have good communication and collaboration. So the first part here, instructional systems design, I just chose a little definition from Wikipedia, which I thought was adequate for the purposes, and that is it's simply creating an instructional experience which makes the acquisition of knowledge skill more efficient, effective, and appealing. And in the position that I'm currently in, when I was hired back in 2001, I was one of about less than a handful of instructional design librarians in the United States. And I was not aware of any positions like that outside of the United States. So there weren't too many people doing what I was doing. And I realized, from my perspective, the library had increasingly had a role in trying to bring an instruction and educate students about things like information literacy, being aware of how to find good information, how to take that information, assess it, and then integrate it into their research papers and other assignments. So as part of that process, I thought long and hard about how instructional designers created learning experiences that help students learn better and created learning environments that help students feel more comfortable while learning. So that was one component of being a blended librarian. And then the technology, and you see an image in the corner with the little computer key button shift. And obviously, we all have experienced firsthand, especially in libraries, how technology has changed the landscape of information sharing, creation, and dissemination. So when I talk about technology, in this sense, I am talking broadly, but for our impact, digital technologies, computing technologies have really changed information management and are really impacting the library in a very, very dramatic way. And to illustrate that, here are a couple of slides. One is the image of moving from a desert to almost a tsunami, a huge, overwhelming wave of information. For most of human history, information has been scarce and hard to access, and certainly before the computer and before digital information, the library was one of the central points, one of the oases that people could come to have primary access to all types and formats of information of that day. Now, that has all changed. Now it has become anybody can produce large amounts of information and then share that information with anyone in the world. So it's a very, very different environment that technology is now creating for us. And this little infographic, which was done by the company Intel, I think shows just very quickly how staggering the growth of this information is. And what I find very encouraging is that libraries were created in a world where we had to provide access, or we were providing access to information that was hard to find for the common person. Now we shift from providing access to hard to find information to now guiding people through mass amounts of information and helping them find the right and the best information. And I think that libraries in that sense are more relevant today than they have ever been. And if we focus on that, I think that really strengthens how we can help our colleges, our universities, our communities. And then the third component, obviously, is still librarianship. Obviously, we need librarians in a library. And the focus of libraries traditionally has been on the collection, how we organize, preserve, and disseminate that collection. But I would say that now, in the information age, one critical component we are leaving out too often is a component that I think David Lanke's in this quote shows is very important, and that is the mission of libraries is to improve society not only through what we just mentioned, but also through facilitating knowledge creation in their communities. And that concept of knowledge creation is a concept that libraries in the past have not played a large role in, but I think in the future it's going to be critical to our communities, our colleges, and our universities that we participate in helping people, students, and even faculty create new knowledge and utilize technology tools to accomplish that. And I'll illustrate that in a few minutes practically, but let me just finish going through kind of the concept here. And then to take that one step further, a professor at Kansas State University, Michael Wesch, who I believe is a professor of sociology, says we need to move from just being knowledgeable to being able to be knowledge-able, and that is really to find, sort, analyze, criticize, and create new information and knowledge. And what I like about this quote is I think it goes very well with the previous quote, but neither of those two individuals, they come from very different backgrounds and they haven't collaborated, but they're saying very similar things. And I think that that is encouraging because people outside the library, I think, also are starting to realize the library can be critical in this process of helping students become knowledge able. So that leads us to what is blended librarianship, where is it headed, what is the point of it? The article that I had mentioned was published in Reference and User Services Quarterly, and here's one of the quotes that I want to focus on. In my opinion, blended librarianship is really focused on the librarians. Instead of the building and the collection, it's focused on the skills, the knowledge, and the relationships that librarians create with their faculty and their students, and how that fits into the teaching and learning environment. And if we focus on that, then our relevance in the learning process, in the classroom, whether it's online or face-to-face, is going to be strengthened. So what are opportunities for blended librarians in this environment? I would imagine many of you are familiar with open educational resources. I'd love to be able to poll you, but I'm not there and I can't see your faces and ask you to raise your hands. But I hope that you've heard of open educational resources. And these resources, as I see it, will play an increasingly important role in the educational process. And certainly the access that we can help facilitate and provide to these resources is going, in my mind, to help them become successfully integrated into the classroom, into the curriculum, into the course. Libraries in the last decade haven't played a large role in that, but I think that they are going to play an increasing role. And one of my focuses has been focusing on the interactive kind. So things like simulations and games and tutorials and multimedia modules that are open educational resources, I think can effectively enhance instruction, and the library can play a critical role in connecting high-quality resources like that for students and faculty in the courses, whether it's a math course, whether it's a history course, a science course, or whatever. And in fact, I feel so strongly about it, I was able to take some time off for research and write a book that will be coming out this fall called Interactive Open Educational Resources, a guide to finding, choosing, and using what's out there. Because what I found is there really weren't any researched, written information on all of the repositories, high-quality databases and repositories that faculty can use. And I thought librarians would be perfect to be able to help faculty use those. Another strong opportunity, which is online learning, and in the United States in the past year, the term MOOCs, Massive Open Online Courses, has become quite the topic of conversation. It's really entered the mass media, and people are starting to wonder, what is the future of higher education? And I think, again, this is a wonderful opportunity for libraries to think about how we provide resources for these types of courses and in this environment. And then quickly, finally, the use of technology applications and Web 2.0 social networking sites. Clearly, the library has an opportunity to use these technologies to help connect more with our students and our faculty, the people using our resources, as well as perhaps find new ways to disseminate that information, and also help students learn that these technologies can help them create information as well. So these are just a few opportunities that blended librarians have when they combine the skills and understanding of instructional systems design, some information technology skills, and traditional library skills. So from my perspective, that gives us a really unique opportunity, an opportunity to create an intersection, and the library becomes the central point of that intersection. If you will, the knowledge hub or the learning hub on a campus, so that librarians can be leaders and mediators and guides for faculty and students to accessing all of this vast amount of information that, as I showed earlier in the slide, is being created at an even faster pace, and we can help guide and help our students and faculty understand what are the best quality resources, and also expand the types of resources that they make use of, whether it would be open educational resources, like I mentioned, online educational games, simulations, and tutorials and modules. So I think certainly in the United States, we have seen in the last decade the development of many libraries creating knowledge commons or learning commons or information commons. And I think that the development of these commons in the library is both evidence for this trend taking place, as well as a very good sign that libraries are being seen by their community as more than just a repository for books, but rather as a central place where people can go to have conversations, can go to get learning resources, can go to be able to have the computing resources they need as well. And it's bringing new groups into the library. And for example, at the library that I work at Penn State, we have an information commons. And in our library, we have instructional designers, educational technologists, we have information technologists, we have obviously the library and the library staff, and increasingly we're looking to partner with other services that libraries have and bring that into the library so that students can come into the library and not only get resources for their class, but also be able to get help, whether it's technology help or whether it's help about finding a job in the future, or help about developing better study skills. And so these trends are very encouraging from my perspective, because it really helps the library become the central place of a college or university where learning can take place. I wanted to share with you a way to find out more and to also begin to participate a little bit. I don't know how many of you have heard of a Web 2.0 technology called Scoop It, but it's a nice site, and it's a site that allows you to collect resources and share resources. And they call it social curation, which I find kind of interesting because to me it very much reminds me of citizen journalists, where now with a cell phone and a and a camera that we all have and that most people have in their cell phones, they can record a news event and post it. Well, now with social technologies, people can become, if you will, citizen librarians, where they can collect resources they find very valuable and then create a library of those resources and share them. So I created one called Blended Librarianship, and the URL, the address is right there. And if you're interested in going to it, please feel free to check it out. It has a number of resources about blended librarianship, and the slides that I'm using today, I will put those slides in that same site, so that if you wanted to go back and review anything, you certainly can do so when you have a chance. So I did want to leave time for questions, and probably the easiest way for me to answer those questions is if George were to type them in the chat. So I'm going to stop talking for a moment and ask, do you have questions, or are there things that I can explain in greater detail?